book. I'm your host Gowtham Naidu and I'm from Author's Channel, which is a book publishing, distributing and a marketing company. Today we have someone who's done many hats, be it in the fields of HR, research or entrepreneurship. And currently she's a certified coach who helps in empowering women. We welcome to the show Ms. Aparna Devagiri.
Thank you so much, Gowtham. Very happy to be here.
Ms. Aparna, after spending decades in corporate entrepreneurship, what exactly was the moment that sparked you to write a book, show to the world that you need to be doing something about professional women?
Gowtham, that's actually a very interesting question. So, for a long time, I've always thought I should write a book. Okay, but somehow that idea didn't come. And my house is full of people who write. My mother's written books, my husband's written books, my father's written one book. So that, and then journalism. So that whole thing is there in our family. So somehow I was feeling I should write, and I attempted also, to start writing something. And I took up very complex subjects and tried to, nothing worked. So what was happening was, at that point in my life, I had gone through some career changes, and as part of that career change, I was actually thinking that I should become a coach, like a leadership coach, and I was going through that training. As I was going through the training, I went through coaching myself, because that is, you go through the process for you to understand what is the impact it has, and it had a very deep impact on me. So, that experience kind of stayed with me. And the next time this thought came that I should write a book, I actually had something ready which I wanted to share. And the whole point was that, okay, I have gone through one experience. It is not accessible to everyone else. So what can I do to make it more accessible, especially, and my book is based on women professionals, right? So how do I make what I have learned and what was so useful for me accessible for women, other women professionals? That was my aim really. And then I said, okay, let me, make it a book and then reach out to more people. Because my profession is basically working with people one-on-one, right? I do training workshops where there may be 15, 20 people for women leaders. I do research, which is not widely read, it's available. And I do coaching, which is mainly one-on-one. So to increase that reach, I thought this was a really good idea. So the idea of the book kind of came.
Writing and publishing, it's a hectic process in itself, isn't it? Especially for someone of your career who's juggled various responsibilities. How did you maintain that discipline? How did you give yourself a deadline that I am going to finish my book? And the publishing in itself, which is another process, editing, layout, manuscript. How did you manage it?
So Gowtham, see, by nature, I'm not a very disciplined person. In the sense, there are people who will say, okay, 2 hours every day or whatever, I will set aside for this. And they actually are able to do that. Yeah. So I realized that is not my nature. I tried to do it. That didn't work for me. So what did work for me was, I think first I created the outline of the book saying, this is what I want to say. And broadly, this is going to be the flow of the book. And wherever my mood struck on a particular day, I decided to write that piece. So if I felt like, okay, I want to write this story about, this woman who's having difficulties relating to her career. The book is actually full of stories, short stories, which we then analyze. So I said, okay, today that is the mood and some idea is there. I said, fine, I will write that. So I didn't go saying I must write the introduction and then chapter 1, chapter 2. It didn't follow that flow. Once the outline was there, wherever my mood struck, I wrote there, right? I just took that up and I wrote it. The other thing that I did was I found nice, interesting places to sit and write, okay, which usually was not at home. So I would go out somewhere, either in a library or in a co-working space, or I'd sit in a coffee shop somewhere and I would write. And all my writing was done by handwritten. Then I would transcribe it and then do basic editing. That was kind of the process. That was the other thing. The in terms of timeline, I realized that. So one of the things was I had decided I need to recover whatever is the cost of publishing this book. Okay, that was my goal, and I knew that within about 9-10 months, it's going to be March of that year where people will want Women's Day. And I said this will be a good thing for organizations to do for Women's Day. So I kind of worked back, saying actually it was not 9-10 months, it was more than that. I knew I had that much time. So I kind of worked back and said, okay, if this much time is there, how much time do I actually need to write? And then to work on the rest of it, the actual process of it. So first I focused on getting the basic writing done, then stringing the chapters together. So that piece happened, and then I sent it off to an editor to review. While the editor was reviewing, then I started looking at what are possibilities for publishing, right? So regular publishers, if I send it, I knew it will take time. They are not going to work on my calendar. And I did not want to self-publish. So I said, okay, fine. And then I found Authors Channel and then started working with Aruna and the team and so on to put together this book and get it ready. And I think I must have given everyone a lot of headache because I was super involved in every step of the process. It's literally like my baby. First book is like you get very attached to it. So, but then, I'm happy with the result also because of that involvement.
Honestly, I'm really happy that you chose to write this book, especially because it's such a significant topic. But even more glad that you chose to publish it under our banner, because we were able to sell over 2,000 copies within the first 20 days of the launch itself.
Yeah.
It was such a stupendous success. And coming to the book itself, it's not another run-of-the-mill book, isn't it? It's not just people glancing through and just keeping it away after thinking it for a few minutes or something. You've given it a few spaces for readers to introspect themselves.
Yes.
What was the thought behind this?
Yeah, so and I don't like the self-help title. Actually, I don't read myself self-help books. Okay, but then this turned out to be something like that. The idea is that whatever is the guidance given, it shouldn't just be at a theoretical level. I would want the person who is reading it to actually read at their own speed and while they're reading, reflect. So they're able to internalize it. Otherwise, what happens is you read and then you think, oh, fantastic idea, I must do this. And then I close the book and that's all. The rest of your life will take over. Right? I didn't want that to happen. And that is where I use the principles of coaching. So as I mentioned earlier, right, I had gone through coaching training myself and I was coached. So there were certain things I learned. For example, a good coach will ask questions and help the person who's getting coached think, as they're reading. So the whole book is designed in such a way that I am asking questions. I'm giving those stories and some facts and figures, my own life experiences. All that is getting shared under various topics. And as the reader is reading it, they come to a point and then I ask 2 or 3 questions. That is where they are able to personalize that learning. Right? So that was my intention, that it should almost be like they're talking to a friend. A friend is talking to them and then I'm replying and then she's asking more probing questions and then I'm thinking and I'm replying some more.
It's a constant one-on-one session.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a one-on-one conversation you're having. It's not just I'm quickly reading and leaving it. So that was one part of it, and to encourage that level of self-reflection, I realized if we have only text, it will not be enough. So the book also has some very interesting illustrations, and I was able to contact this lady, Devasmita Dasgupta, who's now based in London, who was the kind of design person for this book. She's done some beautiful illustrations as well. very Indian, faces, which any Indian woman will be able to identify with. So those have been included through the book as well, because when you're looking at self-reflection, it is not just knowledge that you're focusing on. You also need to target the emotion. And if I'm reading only words, the emotional connect is up to a certain extent. So that visual impact was also important. So both,
Relatability.
yeah, exactly. So both those were kind of included in this.
Often we see society imposing their self notion of what success should feel like, isn't it? It may be a certain job title or income level or your familial relationship. But many women don't want to be pigeonholed into this predefined notions. How do you define, how do you help women, how do you help them recreate their own version of success and make sure that it fits into their lives?
That's a really, really good question, Gowtham. See, pigeonholing happens when I go by, I accept what the society's definition is of anything, and you mentioned success, right? So typically societal definitions of success for a man, for example, is he should have a good job and then get married at the right time, have those two children, have a car, have a house of their own. So that becomes the standard definition of success for a man. For a woman also it will be similar, maybe with a few more additions that apart from the job and so on, she needs to be a good daughter-in-law. She needs to get married at the right age, be a good daughter-in-law, take care of the children. The kids need to be well behaved. So those are the kind of expectations that get set. Now, if I don't have an idea of my own, of what I want to be, right? If I don't have a goal of my own, then what happens is I tend to go by whatever I see around me. It's a bit like, in college, how do people decide that they want to do engineering, right? Now it's much better, but earlier it was like wholesale. Everybody would go into the same engineering or medical. It was basically because everyone was doing it, yeah? And they in some people call it the herd mentality, where the entire herd goes in one direction. We tend to follow that. The only way for me not to do it is to sit back and say, what do I want? And then design my life to follow what I want. Right? And it may not be one thing, it may be something that will change also. What I want today may change after 5 years, and that's okay. But when I decide that I want to go to Kolkata, okay, just because there is a free trip to Chennai, I'm not going to take that free trip, right? I will say, no, I don't want to go to Chennai, I want to go to Kolkata. Similarly in life, if I decide that this is the lifestyle I want to study abroad, then I can take what decisions I need to in order to study abroad or to work in a particular kind of company, right? So I need to have my personal goal, and that is something that's reinforced in this book. The book actually starts with what is your goal, right? And then everything else is kind of built around that. Unless I have my own goal or my own idea of what I want to do, I will always be pushed around by what society feels I should be doing.
Yeah, it takes some special courage and conviction, isn't it? To just stand back and look at yourself, look at the people around you, and not just run into the rat race mentality. And another interesting concept I read in the book was the wheel of life concept. From what I understand is that the readers are given an option, a choice to just map out their life aspects, be it family, health, relationship, or finance, and see how satisfied they are.
Yes.
It seems like such a simple, but again, a powerful tool, isn't it? Have you gotten any feedbacks from it where it completely changed someone's perspective on life?
Actually, it changed my perspective on life, apart from my clients. So let me tell you how it impacted me. When I was going through that coaching journey, one of the exercises I did was this wheel of life. And at that time, I was actually struggling with the decision. I was working in corporate at that time. I was in a senior position in HR, and I was wondering, should I leave? Should I not leave? What should I do? So that confusion was there in my mind. And when I did this exercise, what the exercise basically does is it gives you your current state of satisfaction in terms of different aspects of life as you had listed, right? Finance, family, spouse, work, money, and so on. And when I did this exercise, I realized that some of those things which I thought were areas I needed to focus on, I actually found out when I did this tool that that is actually not the priority. Something else should be my priority. And that helped me actually make a huge shift in terms of leaving the corporate world, starting off something on my own. That clarity came because of this exercise, which is why that forms the core of this book. Really, entire book is around that because I saw value in that tool, Wheel of Life. Yeah, so one, it has helped me, and I have seen many times that it has actually positively helped many of my coaching clients, because coaching usually is you're in a state of confusion, and the coach helps you get to a state of clarity, right, in terms of deciding what they want to do. So this tool is something very, very useful, and we've used it in a variety of different ways, right? So for example, I had one client who wanted to achieve one thing. She wanted to do this, but then I realized as a coach, she might not be spending time on those priorities, right? So we made two wheels, right? One wheel was, what are those things you want out of life, right? Which was based on this. The other thing I said is, okay, divide up this circle in terms of what are you spending time on, right? So she was saying, for example, I want to be healthy. Right? Health was a very important thing. But then we realized she's not spending any time on focusing on her health. Or she was saying she wants to become a better singer. Even though she's working in corporate, she wants to become a better singer. But she wasn't focusing on that at all. So, immediately you realize that, oh my God, either what I think are priorities may not be priorities, or you realize, oh, I haven't been focusing on this, and this is actually what is important for me. And then you make those changes and prioritize what I should focus on. So, extremely useful tool, this one.
It's like this, isn't it? You actually know where your life is heading, you actually know what your problems are, but after putting it out there in the Wheel of Life format, you actually get an extra bit of clarity that, okay, I'm lacking here, I need to do something. You actually get a physical coach when you do the Wheel of Life thing. And that's actually been extremely helpful for me as well. I am actually trying to map out where I'm lacking, where I should be focusing on extras as well.
Nice.
And coming to next question, we often, even in this present modern day and age, we see that women don't actually speak up often, be it in the work or be it in their personal life. What do you think is happening here?
Yeah. So it's less of an issue now, especially in urban areas. In some companies, you don't find it so much. But yes, definitely it is still an issue that in the corporate world, women will speak up less than men. And I think the reason for it is how we are brought up. Girls, when they are growing up, girls are told to be good girls, right? Be obedient, be watchful of others, take care of other people's needs, don't talk too much, don't laugh too loudly, don't run around too much, be careful whom you make friends with, right? That is the advice that is given to girls, and parents are well-meaning. They want to ensure the safety, and she needs to grow up as a well brought up girl. Now this girl grows up, she goes through school with similar guidance being given, goes through college. Suddenly she enters the workplace and she doesn't have the capability to now freely talk to people. Right? If from the time I was 3 or 4 years I have been told, be careful whom you talk to, don't talk to strangers, don't go and talk to boys, watch out, that kind of thing. Suddenly, how am I going to freely talk in the workplace? Because workplace also, women are in a very small minority. I'm suddenly surrounded by all these men, some of them who may be much more senior than me, right? How am I going to, where will that, the courage come from for me to speak up, right? So there, that reset becomes important, right? Which is what I do in my workshops and so on, is where we say, hey, you know what, you're not a bad girl if you're talking to people. It is okay. For your survival, it's important in the workplace. So then the training about how to be more assertive, how to speak up more, how to speak in public, that kind of thing. For boys, this is not necessarily an issue. There are men who don't have confidence, but that is for other reasons. It might be language. It could be I come from a small town, suddenly in Bangalore, huge buildings. I'm a little uneasy. Those issues are there. But this is very specific to gender. That women are brought up girls are brought up in a particular way, but then that suddenly doesn't suit the corporate expectations. That is one. The other piece is also there are some very traditional companies, or the managers there may still be very traditional, where if a woman speaks up more, then they don't like it. Right? It had happened with me, where I was working with somebody who didn't like the fact that I was speaking up about what I wanted in terms of my career, right? And I didn't realize the discomfort at that time. If I had, I would have managed it better. But yeah, so and then it was not a comfortable kind of relationship after that.
Okay.
That became a little harder.
Yeah, it's good to know that times are changing and people themselves are evolving now with it. But again, in the context of the post-Me Too workplace era, where we see that women are more aware of their rights now, but at the same time they're more cautious going forward because of how they want to be perceived, because of the whole Me Too fiasco that happened. At the same time, men are also being reserved to themselves now. How can we make this atmosphere organic again?
Yeah, that's certainly true. I think now we are some distance away from what happened with Me Too and so on. Closer to that, it was definitely an issue. No doubt that men would be extra careful about how they're interacting. There were in fact cases where a male manager would say, "I can't do your performance review one-on-one. I have to have a third person sitting." So it was actually coming in the way of a woman professional's growth. So there was again pushback from the women saying, for no fault of ours, this is happening. The reason, so you said how do we make it more organic, right? Where we are natural. I think we need to come back and just be ourselves. Once in a while somebody is going to say something which maybe will make me feel bad. Frankly, go up and tell them, hey, look, what, that joke you made, I didn't really, So I need to be comfortable enough to tell you that, the way you reacted was not suitable. You need to be comfortable enough to accept that feedback and quickly change yourself. Those are small modifications, right? The issue comes when it becomes a power game, right? That if I come and tell you something, you say, hey, I didn't, what do you mean? Do you think did I deliberately did? Do you think I'm that kind of a person? Or as a woman, I become overly sensitive and link everything to he's deliberately doing it. It may not be deliberate also. You watch and wait, give people a chance, right? See once, twice. 2 times it's happened. 3rd time something like that happens, someone makes a joke or says something that you go and tell them. If it doesn't work, escalate it. So, those processes are always there. But, understand that we may be of different genders, but we are 2 human beings trying to get a job done. That's all we're trying to do. Ultimately, and in the evening we'll go our own ways. Right? So, one part of it is if I genuinely see something that is not okay, then women need to be willing to call it out, despite the risk of all the difficulties they're going to face because of that. There'll be inquiry, there'll be something else. Oh my God, what will the company think of me? All that. Now, especially in the bigger companies, there's a lot of sensitization on this. So we are finding that even though the number of cases that are being registered might be going up, but those are largely genuine cases that come up, and companies are handling them well. So that level of maturity is certainly a lot better. But I think just from one individual to another, giving people a chance, and letting things move on, and not holding back and saying, "Oh my God, what will happen?" So because of that fear, I will, let me not act. Or as a man, oh my God, if I'm too friendly with somebody, what will they think? You ask for permission, yeah, before, you know, and you can read people. It's not rocket science. You can, when you're talking to someone, the other person is uncomfortable, immediately that alarm needs to be there. You realize that, okay, fine, this is not a conversation they're comfortable with, don't take it forward. So it's just being a little more sensitive to the other person's needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks to the whole Me Too fiasco, now we see more safeguards and railguards for women in the corporate workplace areas. But before that itself, you must have worked with lots of companies. Before that itself, have you come across any organization or any leaders who truly walk the talk when it comes to providing opportunities and making them safe for women?
Actually, that reminds me, I started my career in a company called Bharat Electronics, public sector, right? This was 35 odd years ago. At that time, there were about, I think Bharat Electronics had about 40% or so women working in the company, right? And this was a company of about, I think at that time there was some 16, 18,000 employees. Even in the Bangalore factory, there were about 3,000, 4,000 women, right? All the facilities were provided. There was a creche, there was maternity leave, there were rest areas, there were changing rooms, there were proper washrooms available. Every single facility that companies today are claiming to be, this is what we are doing for women was already given there. And I mean, I joined in as in the HR space as a probationary officer, and then grew there. I worked there for about 6-7 years, and there was never any issue about any kind of harassment, not being treated as equal, and even that thought didn't occur to me. In fact, there was at one point they were asking us, "Where do you want to be posted? Which department?" And I said, "I want to be in industrial relations." Which is dealing with the unions and all that. And at that time, one person said, no, that won't be suitable for women. And 2-3 of us actually went to the head of HR and said, how can you say that? That's not okay. So that was his individual point of view, but I felt free enough to say it. So this thing of women in the workplace and having there has been there all along. Somewhere we have, maybe because it was a public sector organization and it's not like one of the cool companies, we forgot about that. What is happening in government organizations, what is happening in public sector has been forgotten, and the private sector tried to create their own new path, without looking at what is already available. And I mean, if I am starting a company, I will look at what is convenient for me, where the majority of the manpower is available. I'm not going to make special efforts to hire women, right? Which was not done for the longest time. So now, diversity hiring, you must have a woman on the interview panel. All those things have become now new things in a way, which was already there actually earlier. Right, so it has been there in our culture, at least in India, in public sectors. This has already been there. I have experienced it personally. Somewhere along the way, that got lost, and now it is there. And today, also, a lot of the larger Indian companies across sectors. You look at manufacturing, you look at technology, you look at automotive. Many of those companies are doing a lot for their women employees. It might be because I need to retain them, for whatever reasons. But there's much that is happening. Um, what has also helped is, I think, at one point the MNCs coming in, American, European companies, some of the ideas from there came in, right? That influenced and got the Indian companies to also add a little more to some of those policies, call out diversity and so on more openly. Last couple of years, of course, there is a negative effect of that because now in the US, saying things like DEI, diversity, and all is the government, the government is frowned upon now. So companies across the world which are based out of the US, those multinationals are also pulling back on that. But that has not happened in the Indian companies. Those Indian companies which were committed to diversity and inclusion, they continue to remain that way. It hasn't made any difference there. This is in the larger companies. All this is happening. Smaller companies, entrepreneur-driven companies, it is still an issue. That is an area we need to continue to fight and kind of push.
Yeah, there's this ancient saying that I'm remembering now. It basically says that when France sneezes, entire Europe catches cold. And right now, with the global power being US, when US sneezes, the world catches cold. And with the DEI schemes being frowned upon there, I hope we can weather the storm, especially the Indian companies.
Hopefully, yeah.
And make sure that we'll have the diversity going on for however long needed. And coming to your research chapter, the gender-based preferences and the hybrid workplace.
Yes.
What are the surprise findings that you found when researching and writing about this topic?
Yeah. So here a little bit of context. This paper was actually written during COVID time, right? As COVID was ending is when the paper was written. I had surveyed about, I think, 120 something respondents for this, men and women. And basically, I looked at what is the preference. Do you prefer work from home? Do you prefer a mix? Do you prefer to go to office? What is it? And I analyzed it based on gender and based on the level in the organization. So I said, okay, individual contributors, what do they feel? And it became largely a technology kind of thing because I had spread it out on LinkedIn and I got responses from there. So mostly it was tech companies who responded. So individual contributors, people managers, senior leaders was the mix. It was an interesting response because at that time, most of the people felt that a mix of work from home and going to work is the ideal situation. So, working from home maybe 3 or 4 days a week, going to office once or twice. And the reasons for this was working from home, of course, is you save time in terms of travel and so on. It allows me to focus on other things as well because physically I'm not away somewhere. And going back to office a couple of days a week, both men and women felt that it is important to do that because I want to still maintain my relationships. So physically meeting people was considered still important. So both the genders actually preferred a kind of mixed working. So the hybrid is basically that I'm at work sometimes, I'm working from home at other times. There was no concern really about not having the technology or there will be confidentiality concerns, not so much. But even at that time, if you look at the individual contributors and so on, they were very happy working from home, right? When it came to people managers, especially kind of a team lead kind of role and a little more senior than that, there the percentage of people who wanted people to come back to work was higher. Yeah, and which is what has happened now. It is almost as if COVID didn't exist and work from home and all was at that time, that's all okay, you had that fun, now you come back to work. right? So most companies now are saying get back to work at least 4 days a week, 3 days a week is now what is getting mandated, right? Which becomes a difficulty for both for men and women. It is hard, you know. So I think we basically want people around us physically. As human beings, we need that physical interaction. And I feel especially for managers, I think they get comfort out of having their team with them. Rather than sitting at home and I actually don't know what they're doing. So for that comfort, it looks like it is coming back because otherwise, if you look at the numbers, I don't know why organizations, if you just look at just the numbers, right? Why would organizations want everyone to come back when they're saving on, office space and power and water and food and transportation, everything? Despite all that, they're still saying you come back means there's something else that is going on, there was a hint of it in the study that was done where managers preferred people to, come to office rather than work from home because they felt the cohesiveness will kind of go away if everybody is working from the office itself.
Having researched and written about especially the professional women workplace for so long, can you point out some differences on what are the specific challenges that Indian women face when compared to the global trends?
I think yes, there is clearly a difference between the Western context and the Indian context. In India, the societal roles of women are very, very clearly and strongly established. So for a girl to break that and do what she wants becomes very hard. And when I say societal roles, it means you may have your career and all that. That's fine. But your role as a wife, as a daughter-in-law, as a mother is equally, if not more important. And your society will judge you by that. You can earn whatever you want, right? But society will look at this. So there was, now I'm remembering, Dil Dhadakne Do, there was a movie. Priyanka Chopra's role in that, she is a brilliant business person. She has started her own company, she has won awards, all that, right? But her parents, her mother-in-law, her husband, they literally don't, they're not, it's just as if none of that exists. All they're interested in is when will she have her baby? And she's not interested.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, in that movie, I think the entire family was well settled, upper class rung of the family, completely educated. And so the mentality here is that if they themselves think like that, like what about the poorly educated middle class or lower class families? So it kind of becomes a cultural problem rather than even an education problem.
Absolutely. So when I say societal expectations, it is this cultural problem, right? And it's good you bring up, what happens, especially in upper class families, and there is data to prove this, working women, once they get married, will stop working. It happens more in upper class families because there the family says, okay, earlier you were working, now you're married, you're part of our family, you have enough money, why do you need to work? So the idea is that she is working only for money. There's no logic of fulfillment, I do it because I enjoy it, or that I have the passion, or I have an ambition to become a leader, I want a team, none of that. And women actually stop working much more often when they are in that higher income bracket. Right, so these are some of the expectations, and you're right to say that if it happens at that level where everybody is educated, imagine what will happen in, where let's say the parents or the in-laws don't have that education or that exposure. There, that girl has to really push, to make sure that she's provided that space to be able to work and to, manage everything else, or to get the kind of support she needs to in order to be able to focus on her career. So that is one thing. But there is also a flip side. the kind of facilities that are provided to women in India, even something as simple as maternity leave, for example, it is something we take for granted because we've had it from for decades now. But this kind of maternity leave is not there in all the countries in the West. Yeah. So, there you have a situation where a woman has a baby, she has to choose. I either have enough money for childcare so I can leave my child and continue working, or if I don't have that, I have to quit the job and be at home and take care of the child. So, then her dependency on her husband also increases because then he is the sole breadwinner. She is at home, she becomes a homemaker. So it is harder there. That to that extent, in terms of the law and the social structure, in that sense, it is good in India. But our mental view of what the roles for men and women are still remain very constraining, both for men and for women.
Yeah, I don't think the society understands that. Like when we study, when we basically grow up, we actually read about these personalities, be it male or female. We see their legacies that they leave, and we also want to do something like that. But when it comes to female, no, this is not your legacy. Your legacy should be you should have a child, you should look after your home.
Right.
They don't care that they want to leave a separate mark on this.
But it's not that it's only for women. No? It's there for men also. Imagine a man who does not want to get into a corporate job. He wants to become a singer or an artist, or I want to start my own business doing something very different. There'll be so much pressure against him also. Because there the expectations are that he needs to get a good job, earn good money, take care of parents, etc., etc., be the provider. That is their expectation. Whereas for women it is, be the nurturing one.
We've talked so much about the societal expectations, the broad point of view. But let's just talk one last question about you. What is your version of success felt like and it feels like right now?
When you sent me that list of questions, I was looking at this and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a difficult question to answer. It's not an easy question. I think for me, success now I've realized is not one thing, right? And it is not a goal somewhere in the long term that if I achieve this, I will be successful. It's not like that. I think it's like a buffet now or a bouquet of flowers where I want a variety of things and those things will keep changing, right? So I have different interests. I'm very interested in music. I sing and I listen to music. I'm interested in Indian philosophy, Vedanta philosophy. I'm a serious student of that. The women professionals work, that continues. I want to now do stuff at home. What I haven't done for so many years. I feel that there is some focus required for that. I want to maintain my friendships, especially with women friends my age. And they actually say that for women to continue and maintain the friendships with other women is very important. For our mental health, it's very important. So I want to do that. I want to take care of my health. So if you see, that whole wheel of life is coming now. Yeah. So, finances need to be reasonably, it's not too much of a priority. I can manage. Family is important. My home is important. Friends are very, very important. Health is extremely important. Career is important, but to some extent. On a scale of 1 to 10, it will be like 6, 7 kind of thing. So for me, if I am able to broadly maintain what is in my wheel of life today, then I would say I am being successful. Yeah. So it is not if I achieve one goal, I am successful anymore. But if I am able to give time and attention to those aspects of my life in that wheel of life, which I am saying are important. If I'm able to prioritize that and put in effort for that, I think then I'll say yes, successful.
And that's that for our conversation today. Thank you so much, Ms. Aparna, for sharing your wisdom with us.
My pleasure.
I know that you've left lots of our listeners inspired today to step back and reflect and what kind of success that they want to achieve in their lives, just as you did to me. And this book, The Professional Woman's Handbook by Ms. Aparna Devagiri, this is not just for women, to be honest. I would say everyone needs to read it, be it if you're working in a professional workplace, be it if you're staying at home, maybe not working or staying a housewife. This book, it helps everyone. It helps everyone map out their life just to see where they are, just to see what they want to do. So I highly recommend this book. And to everyone watching, please do share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you.